Alright, Xoph's Rain of Arrows Slayer build guide. So I made this character as like a bit of an experiment just to see how the Xoph's Nurture bow worked with a Slayer, and it's ended up being one of my favorite builds to map with that I've ever played in any league. The clear speed's great, you get a ton of leech from the Slayer passives, and the cull is incredible for killing bosses. But before I get too much into the details, I'm going to throw in a map real quick and show off what the build looks like in action. So the driving force behind the clear speed of the build is the combination of the free prolif from the Xoph's bow as well as the large AoE with my Herald of Ash. I have pretty much no problem one-shotting almost every pack of monsters, even up into T15 maps. And the prolif makes breaches really safe since it takes away all the trash mobs and makes it nearly impossible to get overwhelmed from all sides, like we've seen in numerous rip videos from this league. And then for bosses and for tanky rares that may not die right away, I've got a weapon swap barrage for the single target DPS. And once you get some endgame gear going, it's actually really powerful on its own, as long as you don't miss your barrage shots. I'm just going to play out the rest of this map, and then we will get into the details of the build. Alright, now for the build itself. For items, we've got quite a few uniques set up for the character. The main one being Xoph's Nurture. It's the core of the build. It's got a high top end damage for bows, which is really important for the Herald of Ash overkill damage procs. And then it also has the free prolif and some instant healing when our Herald of Ash AoEs do ignite enemies. For our quiver, we have a signal fire. I've just found that this is the highest DPS quiver that we can use. Alternatively, you could use a rear guard if you do want more defense on your character. In the helmet slot, we've got a Devotos. It gives us a bunch of dex, which we need, as well as chaos res and movement speed, which are very nice. Chest, we've got the Comb's Heart. Pretty obvious choice since we don't really need any gems in our chest. We've got everything taken care of. But if you're on a budget and you can't quite afford a Combs, you could use a belly, or you could use a rare chest, or whatever unique chest you feel like. Whatever makes you feel safest. Amulet, we've got Xoph's Blood. This thing's just overpowered. There's no two ways around it. Max life, max strength, fire pen, cover enemies in ash, which makes them take 20% extra fire damage. It just gives you so much. But if you can't afford it, because it is quite pricey, you can use the Gamahu Tiki, which has a lot of fire damage and some life, and it's a much cheaper alternative. As far as the rares go, pretty much just looking for resists, accuracy, some stats so we can use everything, and then as much life as we can manage. Stuff like Weapon Ellie or Flat Fizz are nice to have, but they're more of a bonus. You really want to work on getting your life and defenses from all your rare slots. And for our gem setup, I've got in my bow Rain of Arrows, slower projectiles, added fire, fire pen, elemental focus, and weapon elemental damage. Now I don't have increased AoE, which some people may be confused by, but I found that with the AoE prolif coming from the Herald of Ash, you really don't need extra AoE on your Rain of Arrows. You just want to get as much damage as you can, and it just works a lot better once you start pushing those higher tier maps with tankier mobs. In the helmet we've got increased AoE linked to Herald of Ash, and then we also have Decoy Totem and Blink Arrow. On our gloves we have Flammability with Blasphemy, we have a Flame Golem and Blood Rage, and then the boots we've got the Castle Damage Taken set up with Increased Duration, Immortal Call, and our Vaal Haste. And then for the flasks, you want a Quicksilver, you want a Basalt, or a Taste of Hate. I don't have one yet, but I've been thinking about it since you would get half of that cold damage turned into fire damage. A Dying Sun, or if you can't afford the outrageous price of that, just a Ruby Flask to help deal with your Reflect. A Sulfur Flask for some damage, and then I like a Worm Flask. You can use just a regular Life Flask, but the Worms are really nice, as they let you proc the 20% more damage on kill from Slayer, and they also give you low HP targets that you can create Herald of Ash prolifs from. So for the passive tree, it's pretty straightforward, mostly just life and then things like projectile damage or fire damage or some weapon damage. I do have one Lionized Fall Jewel, turning some of these duelist nodes into bow nodes to let us grab Wrecking Ball for the huge fizz plus attack speed, and then Destroyer, which gives a bunch of fizz as well and some accuracy. And then also in the duelist, grab one Mana Leech node that we need. It has to be attack damage, not physical attack damage, since we only deal fire damage, to let us sustain our Rain of Arrows cost. After duelist, we head towards the left, get Iron Grip for a bunch of damage, some more damage on Lava Lash, and then it's pretty much life nodes all the way to Templar, or we get some more Ellie nodes, some more life nodes, some AoE, and then the big thing up here that we're gunning for is Elemental Overload. Since it's not an RT build, this is really powerful. It lets us hit harder, and it also lets the Ignites hit harder, since the Herald of Ash is its own thing and it doesn't get all the other multipliers that we have. And as far as jewels go, just again, life and damage. The main thing to focus for on the tree is you want to get as much life nodes as you can early on, since the damage from this duelist section and then just your gear in general gives you a lot of the damage you need, and you're going to want that life pool for survivability. So for leveling the character, I think the best way, the easiest way to do it is to not level with bows, but to just level with a pair of face breakers. They allow you to progress really fast and they're really safe. And when you're leveling, you pretty much just want to grab anything that's generic physical damage, and by that I mean it's not weapon specific. So you see, if I take this jewel out, these say melee weapons. This one does not say weapons, so this is a good one. Things over here, like in the Marauder, will say weapons. You don't want anything with weapons, you just want generic physical damage. So you grab all that in the Duelist, you head over to Marauder, you grab it all in the Marauder, and then what I did was I went up this way, I grabbed Berserking for some attack speed, and then after that it's pretty much just life nodes, life nodes, life nodes, life nodes, life nodes, life nodes. That way you're pretty much foolproof leveling, you're not going to die. The face breakers and the little bit of damage you do have are going to carry you all the way up into Merciless, and then once you hit level 64 you can respec and use the bow pretty much right away and start switching towards this tree you see here. Now, before I go, I am going to do one more map, but I'm going to do it on a budget setup to show that you in fact do not need all these super expensive items that I'm using to make the build work. I'll even take out a gem and throw it into a 5-link and show off that the build does work with pretty moderate gear. So thanks for watching everyone, and I hope you guys enjoyed the build guide.
Over here, exile. this just yet.
Alright, there you go. Once again, thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.